and welcome. I'm Marie Winckler and you're listening to another very special Semaine podcast. If you're wondering what on earth Semaine is, you can find all you need to know on Semaine.com. That's Semaine, like week in French. This Semaine, we're lucky to be joined by Liya Kebede, the Ethiopian supermodel, ethical brand owner, actress, and maternal health advocate. If those titles haven't enticed you yet, then let me list a couple of reasons why we think you should care about what's about to follow. When she launched her clothing brand Lem Lem in 2007, she made a point of employing weavers in Ethiopia in order to preserve and promote their craft. You have to remember this was a time where conscious consumption wasn't really a thing. For more than a decade, she was a goodwill ambassador for the World Health Organization before taking her engagement to the next level by creating her own foundation. She championed specific underground action to reduce maternal, newborn, and infant mortality in Africa. As an actress, she didn't choose any role. She tackled the issue of female genital mutilation in the desert flower. In 2010, she was named one of Time magazine's 100 most influential people. Yes, she has a face made for magazine covers, but a personality made for podcasts. Thank you very much, Liya, for coming to see us.
Who are we talking about?
It is you indeed. In light of the name of this podcast, Semaine, we'd like to ask you first, how has your Semaine been?
It's been kind of an interesting week, actually, because I sort of do many different things. I wear many different hats. I kind of deal with many different challenges that come from the all the different positions that I hold, and so and Fashion Week being right around the corner. So there's a lot going on this week. I guess I should say that.
So let's start from the beginning. Can you tell us about how you started modeling? I heard you were scouting in Addis Ababa when you were a teen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's something like that. Yes, I used to model in Ethiopia as a young girl in high school, and I wanted to really be a model and be on the runways internationally. And so I was able to go to Paris when I was little, and well, not little, but I was 18, I think, and try to be a model, and sort of my journey sort of started there, and then I did a little bit of Chicago for about 2.5 years and did all the catalogs and all these kind of jobs, and then finally moved to New York, and that was a long time ago.
Do you feel that the industry has changed a lot since you started your modeling career?
Yes, the fashion industry has changed quite a lot since I started. I mean, I've been in the industry almost 20 years.
Oh, wow.
Which is kind of crazy. And so I've seen so many waves of people come in and trends come in and go, and now we're in a very different sort of time, and in the fashion world as well. So yeah, I feel like a lot has changed.
One thing that really strikes me is how the fashion industry is now somehow based on a model's level of influence online. And do you think that has been instrumental in the decision of creating your brand and kind of developing your own projects?
No, not at all, actually, because when I started my brand, there was no real social media thing, or none of that online influence or digital excitement, you know? It was not at all that time. So when I started the line, actually, I started it because I was home on a holiday visiting my family, and I've always had this sort of I was always given this kind of responsibility of like, what are you going to do for your country, type of thing. And so one of the things that I visited was these weavers, these artisans that have always made our clothes in Ethiopia for traditional, events and things like that. And I realized that the art of weaving was dying, and there was no more people buying these beautiful clothes because everyone is wearing, fast fashion, and because it's easily accessible and it's modern and whatever. And so there was all these amazing weavers who were sort of jobless, and so the idea really came from seeing this problem and trying to find a solution for it, and saying, well, let's see, maybe okay, I'm in fashion, maybe I can start some sort of a brand and see if I can help with this. So it really started like that, and then took on a life of its own, and now it's become something really real and has like evolved into something really beautiful, and I'm really happy and proud of it, and we've come a long way with them, and they've come a long way with us, and it's been an amazing journey. And so that's something that's always, I don't know, I feel like it's something that's sort of an extension of who I am, so not at all connected to what's happening on the digital space.
What does the name mean? I know there's a little story behind it.
So Lemlem is an Amharic word, which is the Ethiopian language, and Lemlem itself means, it's when something blooms. It means to bloom. My daughter's nickname that her grandmother gave her, actually when she was born, was Lemlem, and so I just thought that it was a kind of a sweet connection to do it.
For those who don't know the country of Ethiopia this well, can you describe it a little bit for us? What is it like there?
It's always a hard question because I don't really know how to respond to that. I mean, Ethiopia itself has, it's changed a lot since I was little and living there. I think when I go back now, it's almost hard to recognize it. It's developed a lot very quickly. It was more simple before, I want to say. When I was, growing up, it was just easy. And as kids, we grew up in a neighborhood, and you just kind of run around, and you have neighbors, and your kids kind of hang out in the neighborhood. It was very easy, and now it's become more of a city like all the other places. So, you're more in a compound and all those kind of things. But there's a lot of development, so there's a lot of construction, a lot of buildings, and a lot of movement, and it's quite chaotic, the city of Addis. And then the rest of the country is quite beautiful, and there's a lot of beautiful nature. There's a lot of space, and it's always such a pleasure, and the air, and the people are really wonderful, and there's some sort of a Zen space there, and there's an incredible spirituality there, and it's a mix. I guess it's a mix of different things.
Do you go back there a lot?
I go a couple times a year. My mom's still there. My brothers go back and forth. I have a lot of, family, cousins, everything.
You also have your brand, but you also have the foundation.
I first started out by being a WHO Goodwill Ambassador for maternal health, and that was when I had already had my son, because I have 2 children. And I grew up in Ethiopia, and when you grew up in Ethiopia, hearing of mothers dying in childbirth was very, very, very common. And so in my mind, even though I was pregnant and having my child in the US, it was something that was in the back of my mind, whether I was going to survive the childbirth or not. And I remember when I brought that up to, with the doctors or whatever, they'll be like, what are you talking about? Like, you're not going to die giving birth. It's like, and I was like, oh, okay. I didn't know it was so normal not to die, And so that was a huge awakening for me. And when the WHO approached me because they wanted to talk about maternal health and how this issue that's been going on forever, really, women have been dying in childbirth always, everywhere, until some kind of development happens in a country, and then women have access to doctors and hospitals. And they wanted to really raise awareness on the issue. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. And so I became a Goodwill Ambassador for them, and a lot of my work then revolved around really raising awareness, doing press, and putting the messaging out there that this is still very much an issue today in a lot of different countries, especially Africa and all these places where there's not enough access to medical care and not enough access to doctors and hospitals and roads to get to the hospital, or all these kind of things. And very quickly I realized that just doing, raising awareness alone was not enough, and people wanted to then say, great, I want to help, how can I help? And I wanted to find some kind of a mechanism for them to join us in this journey, and that's how I started my foundation, to try and do projects around maternal health, like whether it's equipping medical centers or helping train skilled attendants, or even though continue also to raise awareness of the issue. And as we did that, and we celebrated sort of our 10th year with that. And actually, we celebrated 10 year of Lem Lem, the brand. We thought that maybe it was a nice time to marry the two, and also in our foundation extend also another arm to the artisan community that we work with in our brand, and also have the people who buy Lem Lem introduce them to the work that we're doing, and to have them be more also interested in the work that we want to do with the artisans. And so now we're working on also training of artisans and empowerment and all these kind of different things we're getting into as well on the foundation side. And so now we've called it Lem Lem Foundation. It's all one thing.
Do you think it's more about the educational work that you have to do within those communities? Is it working with NGOs which are on the ground? How does it work? How does the foundation chooses the project they get involved with? And
it depends. I think education is a big part of it for sure. Right now, to work with the artisans and doing the empowerment, or doing like a 3 months course on weaving for women or something like this, like all those kind of things, we're kind of we don't have an NGO that we're working with, kind of doing it on our own for now. But we'd love to partner with other people who are doing it to make it bigger and bigger. But it's like we're testing it and doing like a trial period. In terms of the maternal health, we do work with NGOs on the ground. We work a lot with AMREF Africa, which is a really big organization, and they've been amazing with training a lot of midwives and trying to, put out as many midwives as possible across Africa. So we've been helping them with that, and so we kind of work on both ways.
If we go back to the fashion side, so in times of campaigns like Me2 and Time's Up, that are getting momentum within the creative and other industries actually, how do you see the cultural landscape changing for women everywhere?
I mean, definitely the landscape is changing, I guess. I think not just in fashion, but I guess everywhere really. I think it's great what's happening with the Me2 movement. I think for a lot of us, I mean, at least for me, it was kind of surprising to find out how prevalent it was, more than anything. I think it's not the issue that shocked me, really. It was the fact that there's so many of it, and it's a strange situation. And I think that I think we have to be careful that we don't just jump in and just point fingers and make this very divisive sort of plan on how to solve it. I think we really have to take a really step back and actually look at why we are in this situation. I think there's so much lack of maybe, I don't know, there's definitely something we're doing wrong in society for these things to happen this often. And it's not necessarily the guy's fault or the girl's fault. I think it's everyone's fault that we're sort of failing our society into educating them about how to behave, or I don't know, or we're maybe imprisoning. I don't know. There's something we're not doing well, that all this issue is so prevalent. There's something wrong, and I think we have to think about that. Like, we have to think about how do we evolve our society, and it's not a quick fix, and it's not we just have to kill this thing, or it's not. It's way deeper than that, and we have to address it, or else A, it won't go away, and B, we're going to create another sort of monster, and that's the my fear is we have to be careful not to you're trying to kill one monster, you create another one. You have to, it's the idea is to not have a monster for everyone, and actually have a more healthy society, right? Obviously there's an unhealthy society going on, so it's kind of a tricky thing, and it really, for us, like, I have a son, I have a daughter, it's a very challenging time, because you have to educate them, and it's really, you don't really even know what to say in this, like, what do you tell them, how do they grow, what is the world that they're gonna be inheriting. And it's a real question on all levels, you know. I think about even there's the school systems, like, is that really still right? The way we're teaching our kids, is it enough anymore, you know? Or should it be more broader? Should they, you know, be educated more things about actual life things as opposed to just, oh, we're learning a theory in math, okay, but that's not enough to live life, you know. And how about the rest of it? Where are they going to learn this? And should we not be looking at how do we readjust society in general, you know? So I think I don't know, I think it's on so many levels. And the same, that it will address diversity, it will address, you know, even ageism, all of that. I mean, we are doing it to ourselves, right? So we're saying this is nice, this is not nice, this is beautiful, this is not beautiful. Like, you know, I think we have to re-question everything, you know?
And do you feel there's space to have this debate?
I honestly don't think we have a choice not to have this debate, right? Like, we have to have this debate. And I hope more people have this debate, because if we want to, I don't know, I feel like if we want to create a better society, we have to have those debates.
It's true. Do you talk a lot, for example, about social media with your children?
All the time. I talk about it all the time, social media, because it's a very, it's a dangerous, I don't want to say weapon, but it's a dangerous platform, because it's great and it's not great, and it has both. And right now, I don't know to what extent we know how not great it is yet. We all think it's great, you know what I mean? So, and I think because it's such a new thing, and I don't know if I'm being super old school and being like scared of any new technology that's coming our way, and maybe, but there's also some truth to, you know, I don't like that we're giving away so much of our liberty. It scares me. Our freedom scares me, you know, like the idea even of like, oh, I'm going to use like my whatever thumbprint on a phone to open my phone, whatever. I'm like, this is odd. Like, why? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, sure, it's easy and convenient, blah blah, but to how much are we giving away of ourselves just for convenience, right? And what does that mean later? I don't know what it means, and no one has the answer. We're just going, and that scares me, you know. And there's no, like, I feel like there's no entity that's sort of like protecting you, you know. It's kind of like just try, you know, just everybody's just going, you know. And so it scares me a lot, you know.
Well, do you think you were quite lucky to lead your career when there was none of that, especially?
I think that, yes, because I am not, it's not natural to me. You know, for some girls it comes very naturally. For me, it doesn't come, you know, that naturally. I know it's sort of become a necessity. You know, with work and everything, and for everyone really, like you cannot not have social media anymore. Like you almost can't do it without it, you know. So you have to do it, but it's not something that I easily do or I easily share, or, you know, and I even don't know how I feel about all this sharing of everything. I feel that sometimes it takes the mystery away, and we all are kind of craving for mystery a little bit, maybe. You know, there's not that excitement that we used to have about looking at somebody on a magazine or looking at a movie or an actor or all that stuff. I feel is going away because it's so accessible in a way, you know, everything, you know.
For the shows also.
For the shows too, and it's affecting. I mean, it's having a real effect on the business as well, because people are like, oh, I've seen this so many times already. If you see it on the runway, you're going to see it on 100 other Instagram posts. By the time it comes to the store, it's a year later. You're like, we're still buying this? I don't want to. You know what I mean? Like, so it's affecting. So they have to change, and it's like, oh, you know, it's hard because everybody's trying to understand, like, how do you then function as a brand, all of it is being, I mean, it's as much as we might not realize it, it's driving our life a lot, you know.
I think I completely agree.
Yeah.
What I found interesting when I did research on you and what you do is that, as I was saying in my intro, is how kind of pioneer you always were because of that. Whether it was because you were one of the first black women in a beauty campaign, that international, or whether it was actually creating a conscious brand. And now it's almost it's almost an obligation to have this link with who's making it, which I think is great. But did you already know at that time that tapping in that kind of...
Absolutely not.
No?
I know where you're going with it. No.
Really?
Not at all. Honestly, no. It was not at all. I wish, because I think it sounds really amazing. Because when you said it, I'm like, "Ooh, that sounds really cool." Did I actually do? No. No, I think it's just. I think a lot of it is just I'm just doing an extension of what makes sense to me and what I am. I feel like if I look back, I end up doing things that are very close to me a lot of the times, and I don't know. I think it's just, I don't know. It's a lot of the things, like even the brand or the foundation or even all those. I don't know. I feel like there are things that an instinct thing that I listened to and just sort of, and I it felt natural to do, I guess. But it wasn't, I didn't mastermind, I wish I did, because I think it's pretty cool to be able to do that, but I guess it wasn't,
Talking about the sustainable brands, what do you think we can all do to take more responsibility, both as consumer and as individual?
I mean, there's no formula, you know what I mean? Like, there's no formula or anything like that. I think you just have to, I think we need to be, I mean, again, it's another, for me, again, it comes down to, being educated. We don't have the opportunity to be educated either. Like, where do we get, we now have to educate ourselves. You have to actually to go and try to find out what's happening, and it's not easy. It's not something natural between doing your job, being a mom, whatever, dealing with, you have so many things to do, and on top of it you have to know what's cool, know what's social, it's not easy, right? And it's not, so, but you don't have a choice in a way. So I think a lot of it has to do with, if you can just educate yourself a little bit about the impact that we're having, and on all aspects, right? We have to protect our world and the planet, and on all its, the environmental side and the, all these artisans, all of it, sustainable, whatever. Mm-hmm. And we all have footprints on this planet, so we're all responsible to a certain degree. And so, if you know that, I think naturally you'll do, from your own perspective, what makes sense to impact that. Mm-hmm. That's, you know what I mean? Like, that's, for me, that's all you can do anyway. You have to do something that makes sense to you, but to know that, you have to sort of understand that everything we do is impacting everything else. So if you know that, I think you will be a little bit more conscious about, how you live your life. But it's on everything. It's on tolerance too. It's not just sustainability and all that kind of stuff. It's also with other human beings. Mm-hmm. It's nice to save animals, and it's nice to save the world, and so that but we have to also save other humans, and we can't be intolerance and racism and fear of the other, and all those things have to go away. It's just so old. Yeah. And it's not, I don't know, I just don't think that it's the way forward for a society. I think we spend so much time fighting, hating each other. It takes so much energy, wars, all those, you know what I mean? Imagine, I don't know, isn't there a way where all that energy can be spent on actually getting together, all of us, and trying to build a better world for everyone? Why wouldn't that be our goal? I don't know. Mm-hmm. It's really sad that, this intolerance of the other has to stop,
Mm. But then you see that there's a difference in kind of like the Western school of thought and African school of thought on that, on the idea of community, for example.
Yes and no. I think as humans, we all sort of are the same at the end of the day. There's always the fear of the other, no matter where you go. And yes, on some moments, maybe there's bigger communities here, but if you look at the whole world, there's so much, opposition between each other that we need more of that. We need more. The community needs to be the whole world, right? That's the thing, right? Like your community should not just be the people that look like you or your family or your neighbors or your friends or, the community has to just be everyone on this planet because we all are on this planet and everything we do affects everyone else on this planet at the end of the day, right? And so why shouldn't the community be everyone? I don't know.
That's true. If we could all go towards that, it's true. Going back to lighter
issues, fashion.
So you do 4 collections a year. That's a lot.
Yes, I agree with you.
So do you oversee everything? You have designers, right?
Yes.
And then somebody was explaining to me that most of it is in...
80% of it is made in Ethiopia.
And
handmade.
Then after that, you had also other projects in Kenya,
yes.
in Rwanda.
And Madagascar, yes. We work 100% in Africa. So the idea is to make everything in Africa and change that concept too of people's expectations of what's made in Africa. And also just really employing people in Africa is very important to me. And changing that and being the role model for other brands to come in and actually, work in Africa and employ people in Africa. And then, so we have a collection that encompasses the handmade with sort of more of a cut and sew easy pieces together. Okay.
And so what's next for the brand? Where do you see it going?
I mean, I think it's grown so much and I really would love to take it to the next level. I want obviously to add other things as categories into it. I wanted to, to sit there with everybody else. I would love that. There's not a lot of brands that are made in Africa right now. And I feel like if we could, making this work and making this successful can change that a lot, and that's the idea. And so, I think we have something kind of special, and I want to see its full blossom.
And unfortunately, that is all we have time for. But you can find more information about Liya's organization, her brand, and all her up-and-coming projects on Semaine.com. Thank you very much for listening. We hope you have a wonderful Semaine.